Hello and welcome to today's video where we'll talk about sensors in Android Studio, and we'll start very easy, very simple by checking the available sensors and displaying all of them with lots of information or only with a few details. But don't worry, I will explain everything step by step. It's going to be very easy as always, the easy way. And even though it's a bit on the long side, this video, you will like it, you will enjoy it, I'm sure. So we'll start with a very complex user interface, and by this I mean only one text view. And inside this text view, we'll start by filling a lot of information. So we'll take all the available sensors with all the available information and we'll just drop it there. We will make it a scrollable text view, so you will be able to scroll down and see everything. Then we'll just make it a bit tidy, and we'll display only the name of the sensors, so we can see at a glance what sensors are available. And then if we want to take another approach to search for a particular sensor and disregard the list, the application will show whether or not this sensor is available. So this is what we'll do today. We'll play a bit with only one text view, but a lot of information. So let's go to Android Studio and see how we do it and what we learned today. You will start by opening Android Studio and you will create a new project that will be an empty activity project. And once the project has loaded completely, you will see something like this on the screen. You will have two files already opened, the main activity Java file, where we will write the code of this application, and you have the activity main XML file, where we will construct the user interface. We can minimize the project folder. We don't need to work in that area for this simple example. So we have the Hello World text view already on the screen, and we will use this text view. We don't need anything else. For ID, we'll just say text view. This should be enough. For text, we will change it to sensor list. And because you can't see anything, the text view is so small, we will increase the text size. So we'll search for the text attribute. I'm sorry, for the size attribute. And then you see text size. You can increase it to 24. This should be large enough. And what I will do, I will just delete the lower constraint. And then I will just select this text view and I will give it a bit of distance from the top part of the screen. I think 50 dp should be enough. One more thing, when it comes to this text view, you will select it. You will search for the scroll attribute, and where it says scroll bar, click on the flag and select a vertical. You will see in a moment why we need this. I think it would be a good idea also to increase the size of the text view. So I just make it match constraints. Problem is that now it goes side to side and I don't want it to be just all the way to the edge of the screen. So I will take the constraint layout. Then I will search for the margin attribute. And I will give it a 16 dp margin. Okay, this should be all that we need to do for the user interface. I save everything and now I can move to the main activity Java file. And this is where we will implement the code of our application, as I mentioned before. Let's start with some variables. Until this point, we have declared several variables. We need one for the text view because we want to reference that control from the user interface and then display the information inside it. So this is why we need a text view. Then we need a sensor manager because we need this in order to access the device sensors and in order to print the list of the sensors available on the device, on the mobile phone. We need a list of type sensor and we call it device sensor list. So very simple stuff. Let's go to the main activity. Inside the main activity, we do something which we've done many times before, which is referencing some controls. You do this by find view by ID. resource ID, and from the list that appears, you can just select the control that you want to reference. This is done. Then you need to say sensor manager. And this will be equal to get system service. You select this and you will just indicate a sensor service. And you see we have this red underlining. You just click on it. Then you click on the red light bulb and then you say cast to Android hardware sensor manager. Lastly, you need to say device sensor list, because now we need to get our list of sensors available. And this will be using the sensor manager from above. And we'll use that to get the sensor list. And because we don't want a particular type of sensor, we want to see all that is available, we just type this, type all. The last thing that we need to do is to display the information, and we'll say text view. Of course, we have to set the text. And we say device sensor list. And if you have paid attention above, this is a list, as you can see above. This is a list of type sensor. However, we need here to have a string. This is why we convert everything to string. Now we can save everything and we can run the application to see what it displays. The application has now loaded, and as you can see, I'll zoom in a bit so you can see better. We have a text view, and inside this text view, we have a lot of information about sensors. And it starts with sensor name, it has the vendor, it has the version type and version and maximum range and all this information. However, we might not need everything, we just want to know which sensor is available in our device. So in this case, we need to work a bit. However, there's one more thing. There is some information which we can't see. And in order for us to see this information, we need to scroll in this text view. I will stop the emulator and okay, let's make it a bit to the side. Then going back to the code, here where we have the text view, I'll just say text view. And we will set a movement method. First one. And this will be a new scrolling movement method. Here it is. Now you can save everything. So this simple line of code will make a huge difference. Remember that in the user interface, we have selected scroll bar vertical. And with this movement method being set, let's see how this changes our application. As you can see now, you can scroll and you can go through the information that has been displayed in the text view and you can see everything. Whereas before, you could only see the part of the text which was displayed on the screen. Okay, so this is going to be useful for you in other projects in case you have a lot of information to display. But we want to do something else. I mentioned before that we don't really like to have all this bloatware, all this information, a lot of things we don't really need right now. So we only want to know the name of the sensor. So how we go around and fix that. I'll close the emulator. This text view we don't need anymore. And I will do something else. We need to go through the entire set of information. And for this, I'll create a loop and I'll say for. I have a for loop and I will just say sensor and I'll give it a name, sensor, very creative. And then I will pass the sensor list, so device sensor list. And this is what we'll do. This construction will basically say, with this sensor list, you take this sensor object and you go item by item through the list. So you go through that list and This is what we'll do. We'll say text view. We'll set the text because we want to display one after the other. So for that, we first take the text view and we get whatever it was inside. We get the text. Then we will add a new line. And then we'll get the name, the sensor name. We take a sensor and then we get the name. Now we can test our application, but we saved it first. And as you can see, this time we still have this scrolling list. However, we only have the name of the sensors, it says sensor list, and then whatever is available in our device. Okay, so let's stop it for now because we want to test the new thing. Let's say you want to build a application which will use the light sensor, the ambient light sensor. You will need to test if that particular component is available. And for this, you have to use the if clause. So if sensor manager, then you'll get the default sensor. And you will say which type of sensor you want to take. And this will be, actually the second type, light. Okay, so you test this. And this should be, let's say, null to begin with. So if this sensor is null, this means that it's not available. So of course it was not found. This is when you say text view and you inform the user. Okay, we set the text. This type of sensor is not available. If, however, the result is not null, so there is a sensor found, this is when you will say that the sensor is available. Is available. You can save everything and let's run the application again. I already know that this light sensor is available because it was in the list before. So let's see if the application figures this out. And as you can see, this type of sensor is available. So the code has done the correct thing and identified that this type of sensor, the light sensor, is available in our mobile phone and accordingly displayed the information, the message. Now, this is just a very simple example. Of course, when you will use sensors, you will do things which are more interesting. But for now, just to have an idea, you know how to display the sensor list. You know how to simplify the list to only see the names, or if you need more information, you can use the first variant, the first version of displaying the information. And of course, you can see in a particular case if you have a specific sensor installed, so you can use it in your application. Now, with this being said, I hope that you have learned something new today. And until we meet in future videos, keep practicing, keep learning, and take care. Thank you for watching.